So I've done what everybody kind of does from time to time if you like cars, browse Facebook, browse Marketplace, browse all the cars, and then I found this car, the 370 GT, but of course it has a problem, but that's usually how I buy things, usually broken. Have a go at fixing them. So this one just cranks and doesn't start basically. Doesn't actually sound like it's got any compression at all. It's kind of a bit hard to tell at the moment because I haven't done any compression tests or anything like that. The interesting thing is it's got no water, and I have found it's either a cut hose or a broken hose. I should say it hasn't got any coolant because that's really the situation. So yeah, there's a broken hose, broken or cut, which either means the engine's been out or and maybe put back in again later. I don't know. Broken. It's possible. But anyway, it's cranking over and it's not starting. I can smell fuel, so I guess that's something. I just sort of been running some diagnostic tests. So anyway, the diagnostic tests come back as not having any codes or anything like that. But I don't know, because these cars, they have a timing chain issue if you don't, replace the plastic part in there, and the little rubber gaskets that are behind there as well, of course, which are difficult to get at, so people don't change those neither. So I suspect that probably those things haven't been done, and maybe we have a timing problem here. Maybe we have pistons that have bent valves and things. That could be why it's turning over quite freely and quite easily. But that's kind of where it's at. The hose that's broken, of course, is down the back here, as they always are. That's it there, you can see it there. It's the broken hose. There was no fluid in the radiator at all. Oil is at the right level, everything else looks okay. Bonnet struts are broken, so we've got a piece of wood holding the bonnet open. I don't know how people put up with that. That's something that I would have fixed. I don't really like that kind of situation. The battery's a little bit tired, which also is probably not helping our situation. I don't know how new that battery is, or how old it is. Well, it's saying it's green, but I haven't had it, checked or anything like that. And everything's loose because someone disconnected it to connect it up properly. It had fluid in the overflow bottle. There's nothing to sort of suggest that there's a head gasket problem going on here at the moment. I don't think it all kind of looks like it might be okay. Not that that's much of an indicator, I guess. And we're going to do it again in a second. Hang on. Yeah, okay, go. Yeah, so I'm at the stage now where I've, stripped a few things off there. Doesn't feel like there's much induction going on at all in the manifold. I can't feel much happening there at all. I don't know how much it's supposed to be there, but it just feels really weak. And I haven't got enough tools now to get spark plugs out, and I haven't got a compression tester, so that's the next thing, is to start getting a few tools together. A breaker bar, compression test tool, spark plug removal tool. It's the right size because the ones here are ridiculous. I'm just borrowing tools at the moment, so it's not really helping my case, but anyway, that'll be the next thing to do. But it's kind of pointing towards looking like maybe it will need a new engine, maybe it will need another engine. Anyway, that's all I have for today. Okay, it's me, the Muppet who bought the 370 GT with the no compression engine, or what we assumed was a no compression engine. And of course, now I've got the tools. It's apparently going to rain for a few days, so there you have it. Anyway, I'll show you the first things you're going to encounter if you've never done this before. So basically, once you get all your covers off and your bits and pieces out of the way, the airbox and things like that, the throttle bodies, because you have to take these off because otherwise you just can't get at the coils, and the coils are down there. The next thing you're going to find is that once you've unplugged all the coils and everything, is you get the coils out and you go to get your socket, like I have.
you know, and because I don't have my tools here, normally I have a lot of tools, you see, but of course I don't have tools because I'm on holiday, so I've sort of been borrowing and pinching tools and things like that to keep going. You find that it's a 14mm socket, a 14mm spark plug, and you go to put your smallest spark plug remover down the hole. So that's the first problem you're going to encounter. So if you've got one of these, what's this one, 5/8 or whatever it is, this is the smaller typical size of an engine, that's not going to work for you. And what you actually need is one of these. So this is quite a nice little magnetic one. See if I can show you what it is. Narrow wall socket, and you need to have one of these. If you don't have this, you can't get down that hole. It ain't going down there. It's just that simple. So if you've got one of these with the narrow wall on it, oh, it's your friend, it works. Hooray. Isn't that amazing? That's great. Yeah, so anyone who's worked on a motorbike, I used to work on a lot of motorbikes, and motorbikes are the same. Typically, this is what you need, and of course I have one of these, but not here. So that was, you know, I went and bought some tools and didn't even think about this, and that was the first thing I encountered was that problem. So that was a tad annoying, you might say. And then of course you're going to encounter another problem, because the next thing that you're going to need is you're going to need one of these, because you know, how are you going to check your compression if you don't have one of these? You've got to have one. And of course I was able to borrow some, but again the same problem, they're the wrong size. They don't get down the plug hole. So you need one again that has the same thread size and narrow enough to get down that plug hole so that you can do your compression test like so. And then of course you can start doing your test, and I've only tested one cylinder so far, and one cylinder had less than 5 psi, so we can probably assume that probably all the cylinders are probably in the same shape and they're probably all shagged. We have to try and evaluate what's savable, what's wrecked. So they're a denso iridium plug. They're quite small, as you can see. Iridium with the typical kind of point you can see on the end. These ones are a little bit fouled, which doesn't really surprise me considering the engine would have been quite hot if it was getting no water. There's the other one, and you can see how it's all sort of fouled up on the end. It's not looking too flash. Probably could do with replacing as well. And the other thing I should mention that's kind of important is that when the timing goes wrong, the pistons can impact the valves, and there are some engines where that doesn't happen, but this is an engine where that does happen. So, you know, making sure the timing is correct all the time is really important. And the other thing I guess I should point out too is that this engine, you know, it looks like it might have been overheated because of that heater hose being stuffed at the back. And, you know, if it's been overheated, that can also cause all sorts of problems to do, because, you know, we don't know how long it was run for. You know, it could have been at night. The guy might not have noticed that it was leaking water, or that it was overheating, and who knows how long it was driven for like that. It could have been driven for quite a substantial amount of time, and if that was the case, that could also be the reason for the compression loss, because you know, rings and bores and things like that and pistons don't like being overheated. Well, here we are again. I'm finally at a stage where I can start removing this engine. It's taken a little while to get the front off. It's not too bad, but there's a couple of areas like where the air conditioning hoses go through the plastic kind of radiator housing holder kind of thing in the front. It's that was a bit of a mission to get undone. I assume that probably one of the hoses actually you can undo pretty easy. You can undo it on the compressor, you can pull it out, but the other hose, no. The great thing is I found an engine with 6,000 Ks on it out of a 2020 car. It had apparently been smashed. The engine had sat around for a while because you know, the wrecker that I got it off, his sidekick basically wanted to use the engine and set it on the shelf, and it just never happened. At first I thought he said 60,000. I said, did you say 60,000 or 6? He was like, no, 6,000. So and I got it at a really good price. Well, here's a very interesting thing. I've just undone the right hand side bank, driver's side exhaust, and this was filled with water. I mean, the water was pouring out of here. I didn't have my phone handy, so I couldn't video it, but yeah, it was pouring out. It wasn't just a little bit of water. And I noticed since last time I filled the radiator up, even though the brake is at the top of the radiator hose where the heater hoses join, I mean, you know, the water got in here somehow. and it certainly didn't get in from the back. It's coming from the engine, so yeah, this is a new interesting thing to be going on. Well, today's mission, what was today's mission? Today's mission was to get the exhaust undone and undo the wiring loom. And I thought that the exhaust actually, even though it's only 4 bolts at this stage, they were all rusted up, and I just sort of thought they were going to be a pain in the ass to remove, and I was expecting that to be one of the most difficult jobs, but actually they came off fairly easily without breaking or snapping or doing anything stupid, so I was happy about that. But the wiring loom, oh my goodness, that was more of a nightmare, and I'll show you that. So the idea was to remove the wiring loom all in one piece, so that when I take the engine out there's no hassles because everything's already connected, which seemed like a good idea. However, some of it's underneath here which you have to remove, and it goes down through a hole over here underneath this. Part of it's connected here, which you can disconnect fairly easily. The bits are in the battery, all the other earths and stuff are all pretty easy. This is relatively easy to unclip. There's 2 clips, you have to lift the tabs, then they unclip, which makes it easy. The problem. So the first problem you're going to encounter, I reckon, is this thing. So there's like where the hole goes through the body, there's this plastic clip, and it's got this rubber lug, and of course I assumed that the rubber lug was just the only thing holding it in, and I was trying to get it off, and it just does not want to come off. If you just pull it, you won't get it out. Well, I didn't anyway. And it's connected to this piece, which has some little clips as well, which you can push just down on the inside of here. But that's connected to that rubber piece, and it's in the hole, and it just does not want to come out. So you basically have to pry and kind of work your finger around the edges of this thing to get it off the plastic piece, and then you can kind of lift that out of the way. Then you can get the plastic piece off, so that's the first thing. And then, of course, when you're in the car, of course, the glove box and everything's in the way. So there were some videos saying you don't have to remove the glove box, and I guess technically you don't, but the filter is up in here, and that thing's filthy, so I thought that I'd remove it anyway, because these things, because they're in such a pain in the ass place to get to, I reckon people just don't even probably ever replace them, unless it's a very competent mechanic that wants to do it. So they're just absolutely disgusting, so that's why your aircon and everything in your car stinks usually, because that thing's way too old and it smells dusty and stinky. And then half of the wiring loom is connected to this, and this one is a pain in the ass because it's got I couldn't really find a lot of info on how to undo this, and it's got like basically 2 little locking mechanisms on each side, like little dimples. You've got to kind of pry it with a screwdriver to be able to lift it up and remove it. So I couldn't figure out how to do that because it's actually it's set into this plastic housing thing, and that was difficult. These ones were easy. There's just there's 2 of these. They just have like a little push button here. You just push it, you just lift it, and off they come. So they come off very easily. But that one, no, not so much. That one just was confusing. I mean, that's how it looks when it's in there. It just looks like that, and you can't really see how to remove it. It just doesn't make sense. But actually, there's a lock on each side here and here, and you've got to pry it a little bit and lift it, and then off it comes. But yeah, I wasted heaps of time on that. Well, that looks really difficult to get at. Yeah. Kind of undone it here. They're undone. Those ones, not so much. Yeah. They're kind of a pain in the ass to get to. Well, most stuff's undone. Pipe's done from there, that's removed. Just a couple more things to remove at the back here. Not much. Everything else is all off. Yep, all disconnected. Steering pump stuff. And that other pipe is down in there, far out. I don't know if you can even see it from here. Yeah, maybe you can. There it is. Yeah. So this is the other thing I've been doing. I've been trying to polish all the yellowing out of the headlights. This one needs a fair bit more polishing, but it's sort of coming along. I reckon it's going to be better. It's never going to be perfect. You'd have to replace them. And then there's this stuff. Heater hose 1, radiator hose 1 and 2. Heater hoses, another heater hose, rotten joiner, which is no longer rotten, brand new, all from Nissan, genuine Nissan bits. What did they cost? Top hose $62 or $63, bottom hose $96, $25 each for the heater hoses, and the connector was $20. So actually overall it was actually pretty reasonable considering that some of the aftermarket stuff was more expensive than this. Of course there's one extra hose that you would have no doubt the observant people would have noticed is missing, which is the one from the passenger side. And yes, I could have ordered one. Nissan didn't have it in stock, not in the country. It would have been 3 months by boat apparently, because I'm not a Nissan VIP or something like that. Anyway, that was the situation, and I can get one. Of course I can get one, but it's about 3 to 4 weeks wait, and I don't want to wait 3 or 4 weeks. So I'm thinking probably what I'm going to do with that one, because it's not so difficult to get at, is I reckon I can probably sort of fudge that with a couple of bits from like Repco or Super Cheap, which is kind of the go. The other thing you can get for those headlights, actually I should mention too, is you can get new lenses for them, which I've been looking at. So you can get lenses for a couple of $100, but they're a bit of a pain in the ass. You know, you got to get them apart, you got to kind of heat them and muck around and take the fronts off, and then you got to seal them real good. So you know, it's not something I want to tackle right now, but yeah, maybe in the future, in the near future, I'm going to do that. Now, the only other thing that I'm unhappy with is this. It's just ugly. You know, it's just on this one side. Basically, the foam is damaged underneath here. The seat is starting to, you know, start to disintegrate on that side. Not looking real flash there neither. You know, I mean, I guess people have been in and out of here 1,000 times. The rest of it's all pretty good, pretty reasonable. Steering wheel's not real great. It's a little bit tired looking, but you know, that could be cleaned up. That can be fixed up. I'm pretty comfortable that I can fix the steering wheel up. But this, I was looking at getting this fixed, and I got quoted $1,000 to re-bolster and redo this, and I think $1,000 is too much because I'd probably buy 2 new seats. But I want to keep it looking original, so that's the only other challenge here at the moment. Okay, I thought I'd show you guys today the problem you're going to encounter. This is not going to help people who have already done this a few times, but it might help people who haven't done it before, and that is how to remove the headers on this car, because it's a bit of a nightmare when you're not sure what you're doing, which I wasn't. So the first thing you're going to need is some penetrating oil, penetrating fluid. WD-40 will kind of work, but maybe not. You're going to need one of these universal joints, 500mm extension bar, a handle for undoing it once you've loosened it, 40mm impact socket, and another extension, because you're going to find in some places the 500 is just not quite long enough, and some sort of decent length breaker bar, which mine is about, well, it's around about 500 as well. And the reason you're going to need those things is because if your car, like mine, which probably many of them are, has never had those nuts off, they are going to be pretty much almost welded on there with rust. They are extremely difficult to move. Everybody was saying, you know, get the penetrating oil on it the day before, soak it overnight. I kind of disregarded some of that info, which probably wasn't a good idea, but yeah, you've got to have that stuff, and ideally be patient, because there's only 2 ways they're coming off, and that is broken or intact, and either way it's not going to be easy unless they've already been off. So from the front of the engine, they're on this side and that side, but they're buried right at the back, and there is bugger all room to get at them. I would recommend that you remove your compressor, your air conditioning compressor, and on this side your alternator, and it makes it easier. You can sort of see through here kind of where they are at the back there. I'll take you under the car and show you. So from underneath the car, you've got your steering, your wheels, and your headers go up under here, and there's 3 bolts. There's one at the bottom, which you can see here, and the other 2 are at the top, and you just can't get at them. Extremely hard to get at. As you can see, there's not a whole lot of room to swing a spanner in here, so I'll show you how to get at them. On this side of the car, on the driver's side, you have an extra issue, which is that steering rod that goes across there, because that's also in your way slightly. That does not make it easy neither. And as you can see now, you see why you need the extension. So on the passenger side, you can get it both bolts from this side. Once you remove this, you can get it one in there, basically over the top of the engine mount, and the other one you can get at from, I think, from underneath here. But you can get it both of them anyway from the side. So you'll get both of those bolts undone. You'll need the leverage if they're really tight, like that sort of leverage. And they fit on pretty good if you do it that way. On the driver's side, you can get it one of the nuts the same way, but the other one you need to get it like this. You basically need that swivel extension, otherwise you're not going to clear the drive shaft. So you can see there I've got it in. It fits in pretty much the same place, and with the extension it will clear the thing. You've still got to go under the car and put it onto the nut, which we'll do now. So maybe it's a little bit hard to see, but it's there. And I can just get it onto the nut. Now there's no nut on here because I've already undone mine, but you can see that it's on. And once it's on, you can undo it. And the upper nut that's facing in the opposite direction, you can get into it by going alongside the exhaust and up over the top of this bracket. This gives you enough clearance to do it. So you can see it up there now connected, and up in here is where it is. And you can get it undone from here. Is that if you do it this way, it's easy, quite easy to undo. It takes all the hassle out of it. It took me a little while to figure out how to do it, but it's definitely easier. I've seen people saying you need to remove the steering stem. Other people saying you need to remove the oxygen sensors off the exhaust in order to do this. If you do it this way, you don't need to remove any of those things. You will need to unplug them, obviously, when you take those downpipes off, but you won't need to physically try and remove them. And I reckon where they are, you're hard pressed to remove them once they're seized in there anyway. But anyway, this way works. It's really good. Hope it's useful to some of you guys. Well, the new engine's in. It's taken a bit of time to do it. What held me up? Everything, really. It's just multiple jobs to do. Don't underestimate this job. It's a fairly large job. You know, getting the wiring loom across between the two engines, all of the swap over, you know, I had to take the headers off to get the engine mounts on. I had to swap the air compressor, alternator, all the brackets, because the brackets were missing. Then I found one of the rocker covers was broken, so that had to come off and that had to be swapped over as well, which meant some of the wiring off, and then swapped that over. So other things, exhaust bolts and stuff. You know, one of the biggest problems for me actually was I'm not doing this on a concrete driveway. So if you attempt this, just do it on a concrete driveway. It costs me so much damn time. I did have boards underneath the crane, but it still just wasn't good enough. You know, like the crane would roll off the boards, then it would be stuck. And it would make it extremely difficult to do. Then lifting the engine in and out, you've got to be really careful where you put your tie downs. If you put them in the wrong place, you'll break something. So that was extremely hard, and I've done the whole job pretty much by myself. The only thing I had help with was lifting the back part of the exhaust on. I had someone else help me do that. All the rest, the engine's in, out, the gearbox, the whole lot, everything was done by me with no help at all from anybody else. And I'm at the point now where I've just got to get the radiator on tomorrow. I've got to fill the fluids. And we're going to start checking things basically before I can sort of do a test start. So kind of looking forward to that now, and hoping, crossing my fingers, that everything will be good and that the car will start up and run okay, and that I won't have any hassles. You know, because we've got a lot of new sensors and things from the new engine that are on this car. You know, some of it might be slightly different. We don't know yet. We'll figure it out as we go. One of the things that was different was the oxygen sensors in the exhaust. Both of them have different plugs compared to the 2020 model. The engine in this car was out of a 370Z, and obviously it's going into a 370 GT, so it's going into a different car. So there were a few differences. The harness was different. There were quite a few differences in the harness, and I'll show you what they are. So the harness had to be swapped over. I was hoping it wouldn't need that, but yes, it did. And that's pretty much it, really. That's pretty much where I'm at. The rain held me up yesterday. Couldn't work at all. It just rained all day and all night, so that was it. So hopefully tomorrow we have another good day and I can get this finished off. So as you might have guessed by now, the car's running. There were no more hassles. Putting the rest of the engine in was pretty straightforward. When I first started up, obviously it was running a little bit rough because didn't have all the fuel across all the rails and things, but once the fuel came across the rails it was all good. And only had one more issue with a MAF sensor reading being wrong, but that was dirty and we cleaned it up and it's all okay, and since then it's been good. I've had the aircon regassed, and it's pretty much ready to drive up north now. So Monday morning is the go. I'm going to jump in and start driving early in the morning and hopefully arrive in Brisbane late in the afternoon. So that's pretty much where it's at.